we actually sat down with Racing South Africa and we asked them to send a letter of request to the racing authorities in Dubai to ask for special permission to have the horse exported out of South Africa after the Queen's Plate, hopefully to get him there in time for World Cup night. Our intentions were to run him in either the duty-free or the Godolphin Mile. But unfortunately, our request has fallen on deaf ears.
Well, currently, unless horses are exported via Mauritius, there's no export going directly out of the Cape anywhere in terms of the international agreements with regards to horses being exported because of the protocols and controls of African horse sickness.
21 days in Cape Town, you then do 90 days in Mauritius. That's if all the flights are on time. You then do the 30-day residency in the UK, and then you get to Dubai. I'm just talking about Dubai, for instance. I mean, between South Africa and Australia and New Zealand, there's no protocol at all. So they have to go to Europe. They need to go the same route as well. It's a nightmare travelling horses like that. You know, you run the risk of injury. You don't know if they'll be that competitive afterwards. They take a few runs sometimes to come right.
We've decided our main aim is now going to be the Breeders' Cup Mile on turf at Santa Anita in November. If we follow protocol, you'll have to do 60 days quarantine in New York, which is locked down. And any horseman will tell you that they'll try and avoid that at all costs. I know that the guys from the Breeders' Cup are lobbying the USDA to try and reduce that period, taking the existing or the new science into consideration.
African horse sickness is an endemic disease of Africa and of Asia. It comes and goes seasonally. One doesn't see it in winter, one sees it in the summer months. It's certainly in southern Africa. It's 12 months of the year further north, and it's the same in the north of Africa. But as long as one adheres to the fairly sensible scientific rules and the protocols that have been laid down, there's no reason why horses can't be exported all over the world.
I really think that it's a misunderstood disease. The last thing South Africa wants to do is export horse sickness. We could never, ever, ever do that. We're more aware of that than anybody else, but it's a non-contagious disease. The protocols that we've put in place, there is no risk of it being exported, no risk whatsoever. You know, you can't tell me that a horse has done 21 days quarantine in Cape Town and 90 days in Mauritius. It's still a risk to anybody, and yet it's still considered a risk.
Unfortunately, we've been badgered with this in South Africa for many years, so we almost expect it, rather than being disappointed. Although, as a 3-year-old miler, I think he was the joint highest rated miler in the world alongside Camelot. And one would think that racing authorities around the world would really want to bring him to their events to showcase the best horses in the world, not just the South African horse. And unfortunately, that hasn't happened despite everything over the last couple of years that's been developed as far as PCR tests are concerned. The fact that we've never exported a horse with horse sickness out of this country in almost 100 years.
I think there's a lack of understanding. It could possibly be an education thing on our part with our trading partners, but it might also be a lack of willingness to understand the disease.
We've got a lot of international buyers here this week buying our product. You've got trainers from the UK that have come out here on their own steam, paying for themselves to come here. They want to buy horses in South Africa. They've recognised that there's quality to be bought here. And I'm sure when those horses do well here, they'd like to take them over to England or Hong Kong or Singapore or whatever the case may be and go and race those horses there and compete on a level playing field with the rest of the world. And hopefully the worldwide authorities can now actually sit down and sort this thing out and open up the borders and allow us to compete.
It needs an open-minded approach on our trading partners' part to sit down, sort out a protocol that is suitable for both. But sometimes it's very hard to get people around the table, and I think that is probably the biggest stumbling block, is getting people to understand and getting people to communicate with each other properly.
The science is there today in order to definitively point out whether a horse is either positive or negative for African horse sickness. And if the science is applied properly and then horses should have no reason not to be exported from any country in the world.
We made 2,500, 3,000 foals a year, whatever it is, in South Africa. I reckon we could double that in a few years. You'd get Darley, you'd get Coolmore, you'd get all the big players in the game looking to establish satellite yards or shuttle stallions to South Africa if they were guaranteed to get their stallion back at a certain time. It's not going to happen. It's not happening. So it's really holding back an industry. It's holding back the expansion in the country, it's holding back job creation. It's actually very sad, you know, that it's got to this sort of level.